Everyone's watching Ethereum's price in dollars, but that may not be the chart that actually matters right now. The ETH to Bitcoin pair is approaching a critical area that could tell us whether Ethereum is finally ready to outperform Bitcoin, and more importantly, whether capital is beginning to rotate into the broader altcoin market. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the exact levels that could confirm that shift, what would invalidate it, and whether this is truly the beginning of an altcoin rotation or just another temporary bounce. Today's video is brought to you by Ledn. Many Bitcoin holders don't want to sell their assets, especially during periods of market volatility, and Ledn offers Bitcoin-backed loans designed to provide access to liquidity while allowing investors to maintain exposure to their Bitcoin. They've recently introduced their lowest rates ever, with larger loans unlocking even lower rates. Plus, your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. You can learn more and check your rate using their loan calculator at ledn.io. Now let's jump into today's market update. It's been a minute since I've had an update on this chart. This is a very high time frame outlook for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, right? This is on the weekly time frame. This is a massive bullish harmonic, which is a sequence of Fibonacci's, which I have noted here, right? This took 6 years to print, and generally would take about 1.5 to 3 years for us to come into the more conservative targets if we're going to see them. All right, so that's why I have this region up here marked off for December 2026, February of 2027. So end of this year, Q1 of next. And it's not a region or a time frame I would suggest getting married to. It's more so of a window, that if and then kind of statement. So if we are trading into this region, especially during this time, that would be a very likely area to see a potential reversal. So meaning that, if we get this big green push, if I'm building out a trading strategy and plan for the future, this is a big area, especially if it's during this time, that I'd be looking to take profits, de-risk, or just really optimize my outlook around that region. But with that being said, I utilize that based off of fib times. And again, this is something that's not guaranteed by any means. We already actually got a substantial push. So this was something that I was looking for a completion zone for the D point around the December of 2024 into March of 2025. And I was targeting this all the way back in 2023. So for the better part of a few years. We ended up bottoming 1 month after, so I'd almost say just a few weeks later than the March window that I was looking for. Same way that I'm drawing up these target areas here was how I was targeting for the completion zone of this in that window. Again, don't want to get overly married to it. It could be a few weeks off, a few months off even. This is a very high time frame scenario. But we got a really nice big spike. I had this region boxed off as a first major target area. And the reason why is because it was comprised of a few things. This was a yearly pivot, so a high time frame average of price. At the time, it was untapped. Very likely that we would be meeting that in the coming year, aka last year at some point, 2025. This is also our 0.382 retracement, which is a major target of this setup. And then as well as I have the higher area of this box marked off because our B point is also a major target of this as well, right? So this is pretty much a first major target zone. We pretty much ran it right into it as soon as we completed this, right? This was a pretty quick move, even though, again, this is high time frame. This is about 4 or 5 months. This is from April of 2025 into August of 2025. So last year. And during this move, Ethereum's dollar price went from 1,400 to 4,900. This is where we actually swept the previous all-time high, made a new all-time high briefly. And it was about 150% move off of the ETH against Bitcoin pair. Now, since then, we've been putting in a bit of a consolidation here, almost a little stairs down, and potentially going to see an elevator up scenario. Issue here, not overly, but we could come as low as this 786 here. Again, this is a simple Fibonacci retracement of this move, meaning that could be a 78% retracement of that overall move there. There are a couple areas that align with that for confluence as support. But otherwise, if I'm looking at this right now and in the time that we are now, what is the line in the sand, or a good line in the sand, that we could look for Ethereum against Bitcoin to show a sign of strength? It is for a daily or weekly close to occur essentially right above where we are. So now I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. All right, and you can see here that I've marked off a 6-month pivot. So this is the average of price from the last 6 months, first 6 months of this year, basically. And again, these are very highly statistical hit rates that we're going to visit this in the following session. So obviously we've already met it. Pretty nice little push, to start off this little window, about 14%. And we're currently on a weekly base, potentially going to reject from it, right? So that's what we want to see and be paying attention for towards the end of this week. If we go into a more daily time frame, so the shorter time frames here, okay, you could actually see that we're potentially flipping it. So I want to see how this closes at the end of this week. And if we do close it above that and start closing a couple of dailies above, this is a major, major sign of strength as far as looking for some more upside. Obviously, we want to come up and claim our previous high, but before we do that, you don't want to miss a potential 50% rally before you get the confirmation all the way up here. We want to have some key areas around the lows to start seeking out some strength. All right, when we're looking at this in the simple sense of a trend, what do we have here? Some simple higher lows, which can easily, slowly turn into a bit of an uptrend here, higher highs across the board as well. Obviously, we've got this high we want to see claimed as far as the structure shift would go. But again, if I'm looking for a really significant sign of strength here, aside from just simple market structure, I'm looking for this 6-month pivot, this average of price to get claimed. Again, this is a 180-day, almost a 200-day average, right? Anybody that's looking at the 200 EMA, the SMA, they always want to see how the reaction occurs here because it's two simple views, right? You're bearish below and you're bullish above. So getting above that here is a really nice sign. From there, I'd look for a push more than likely up towards our anchored VWAP, which is coming in from the high that we put in last year. All right, and you can see how so far it's actually been pretty regarded nicely as resistance. So no reason we wouldn't probably seek another run up towards that. If we were to do that relatively quickly, we would then in turn put in a new higher high around this region here, which would be the first higher high of this whole trend so far. So that is an area we want to seek claimed as well, 0.032 basically. But for right now, really want to see how the end of this week closes out here. I'd love to see this 6-month pivot claimed, and then from there we'd be looking for the continued move here. And zooming back out, again, this is still a very valid setup. It's something that's not going to happen overnight by any means, even though it feels like that initial burst happened overnight, which was over the course of 4 months. Where we are now is initial cool off. We're still putting in a higher low potentially, even if we come down and meet that 786, a couple of these untapped monthlies. This is still a valid setup that could easily push through. And note that I've put 1.5, so 1.5 to 3 years to get to target. And why that is because generally speaking, these setups, these patterns, and again, sequence of Fibonacci's, not just a simple like bull flag or descending channel. These are very symmetrical. They tend to it tends to take just about as much time to get from point X to B. So basically the entire run up here to get to this point, it should take to get us to the completion zone, right? So that's one way that I was looking for that completion area, right? And if we take a fib time here and just measure out the time it took from this point to this point, project it off, we're looking for the 1-to-1, meaning that that's 100% time projected off to see where that would have landed. And that's why I had that March time frame. If you could see on the bottom of the chart there, March is highlighted. We bottomed off just a few weeks later. All right. So these are very, very symmetrical setups that occur. And if we were going to take this and look for some targets in time, generally speaking, it takes about 30% towards 50 to 61, towards a gold pocket in time, right? So that's where this 1.5 to 3 years window comes from. Again, not overly married to it, but I'm just saying that this could take that long just to get to any kind of our conservative, more likely target areas. And realistically, this is just that. This is a conservative target. I'd be happy to see it, obviously, especially from where we are right now. This would be, yet again, another 113% move. But realistically, we could easily come through there. We need to gauge the reaction, see what the rest of the market looks like at that point. And if we were to fully push through that region, a full retrace to the C point would be what I'd be actually looking for out of the ETH BTC. But like I said, nothing to get married to at this point, kind of taking it level by level. First thing we want to see is a 6-month pivot claimed. From there, we're looking to push up towards that anchored VWAP. And then ultimately, I'm still just looking for our initial target box to truly get filled. From there, we can start looking at anything else. But just while we're all the way at these lows, these are the stair-stepped target areas that I'd be looking to. Obviously, if ETH is doing well, the rest of the market's probably going to be looking pretty good. And just to kind of get a little look at where ETH is right now, right, I just want to showcase our current range that we're trading in, okay, basically had this, little, almost like an Adam and Eve double bottom right here, okay, where we got a broke right back into our previous range. So holding that 1816 area, even if we come back down and back test it, still totally okay, healthy. We could even actually come back down and tag this weekly NPOC, which would be, if you're looking for a next entry type of move, this would be the one. It's right below the most recent low. I'd love to see 1739 kind of get tagged. Not a really big, gap in between there anyways, about 3%. Unless you're messing around with leverage, it shouldn't really make you, too nervous, but definitely a region that's still sitting there that could be very well tagged, but ultimately looking for a back test of the range low, right? Pretty much come back to these highs. If you're looking at this this Adam and Eve double bottom, which has a measured move, or we'll just take the which has a measured move of this low to high, put it off the breakout point. Measured move comes right into this region. All right, which I have boxed off because yet again, this is just a cluster of key levels here. So we've got a naked point of control coming in here, an untapped monthly average, and an untapped 6-month average, all stacked right in this region. So just similar to how the ETH against BTC pair ran it back to that 6-month average, that 6-month pivot. We could see that occur right here as well in ETH in the next coming weeks. Okay, and that sits right there about 2161 for anybody not watching the video and just listening. And that is the key line in the sand, again, from where we are right this minute, right? If we're going to seek out any kind of major move higher, because we could just get from here to here, and that could be our major ejection zone, right? That's not a crazy, just 10, 12%. It would be exciting during the day, but it really wouldn't amount to anything. It really wouldn't materialize into anything of substantial value. We want to see that level claimed. And if we were to do that, we look at this in two ways. We're back in an old range. We're reclaiming point of control. We're reclaiming high time frame average. For one, we're going to look to rotate the range. So then we'd look from 2100 to 2400, where I have a flip this level for upside, which is basically right there at 2400. And if we flip that, then that's our next major, green flag or line in the sand, however you want to view it, right? So just kind of taking it step by step. For now, if we were to get a decent little push out of ETH, hold that 6-month pivot on the ETH BTC pair, we push up to that anchored VWAP I showcased, I imagine we'd probably push up to this $2,150 mark in the coming weeks or so. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I always enjoy reading through everyone's feedback. Thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in. I hope you all have a great remainder of your day wherever you are in this beautiful world. I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, everyone, cheers.